Good morning, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live, Benoon Institute of Biblical Research. I was reading this morning in the book of Matthew, and I was actually reading the Hebrew version, which I also have pictured here on the screen for you. And it really caught my attention. It's pretty much worded the same way, though, as far as in the King James Version. So I'll take you to the King James Version. And I want to read this to you. And as the title of this video suggests, Jesus prophesied of the Kabbalist, Sabbatean, Frankist doctrine is clearly evident in what is said here and the manifestation of what we see in modern days. So I wanted to share this with you. There's actually quite a bit of other things in the preceding chapters that would go along with this, but that's really pretty deep information in the parables that Jesus gave. And I don't know just how deep people are able to go on some of these issues. But we'll stick with the simple part, and let's just see how you guys react to this. Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Now, this is a Talmudic doctrine, okay? But he answered and said unto them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, Whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, It is a gift by whatsoever you might be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have you made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. You hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, This people draws nigh unto me with their mouth and honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. And he called the multitude and said unto them, Hear and understand. Not that which goeth into the mouth defiles a man, but that which comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man. Now just remember, I continue to use modern English because of the translation platform. So that's just as you're following along with me, you understand why. Then came his disciples and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? But he answered and said, Every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. If the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Isn't it interesting? Whatever God planted, that's the good plant. But what he didn't plant is going to be rooted up. That's why I said go back and read some of the earlier chapters. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Declare unto us this parable. And Jesus said, Are you also without understanding? Do not you yet understand that whatsoever enters into a mouth, enters in at the mouth, goes into the belly, and is cast into the draught? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart, notice this now, out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defiles not a man. In these very words right here, it is evident that Jesus' own words were prophetic. And when I say prophetic, I'm talking about that the very Kabbalistic, Talmudic doctrine of the Sabbatean Frankist of the modern day Rothschilds and the Chabad Jewish groups are following that letter to the T. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. For example, on this one here, no more news, birth pangs of the Jewish Messiah. Actually, before I start with that one, let's just look at what is a Sabbatean Frankist doctrine. This is from winterwatch.net, the influence of the Sabbatean Frankism on the world. They have on there the 1666 redemption through sin. All right, redemption through sin. And that's the belief that Sabbatean, the Frankism doctrine believed. Let's look at what they say here. One of the most hidden aspects of history is the last 350 years is the impact of the Sabbatean Messianic movement. It was led by Sabbatean Tzvi, starting on June 6, 1666. Tzvi convinced perhaps half of the world's Jewry at its peak that he was the true Messiah. A vast Sabbatean movement promoted the Messianic ambitions of Tzvi, who only recognized the sacred book of Kabbalah, the Zohar, and rejected the Torah and Talmud. The Sabbatean Luciferian phenomena was kept alive through the centuries with great help in the 18th century. Jacob Frank reintroduced Sabbateanism to Europe, and although Jewish scholars have dissected Sabbateanism and Frankism, little of it is known to the outside world. Rabbi Marvin Altman believes the movement lives on, at least in spirit, and refers to today's believers as satanic Sabbatean Frankist. The article that follows uses Altman's book, to eliminate the opiate as the primary source to document these events. The Jewish scholar Gershon Scholem attempts to answer this question, why Sabbateanism has been swept under the rug, in his book Holiness of Sin, as follows. Secularism historians, on the other hand, have been at pains to de-emphasize the role of Sabbateanism for a different reason. Not only did most of the families once associated with the Sabbatean movement in Western and Central Europe continue to remain afterward within the Jewish fold, but many of their descendants, particularly in Austria, rose to positions of importance during the 19th century as prominent intellectuals, great financiers, and men of high political connections. The article continues on to read, Sabbatean cults are well documented in the Encyclopedia Judaica and the writings of the Israeli academics, including the late Professor Tishibi, Yehuda Libes, and Yaakov Katz. In a nutshell, these groups sexually practiced incest, pedophilia, adultery, and homosexuality, and were otherwise depraved. The Talmud states that the Messiah will come only in an age that is completely guilty or completely innocent. That's in Sanhedrin 98a. And from this epigram, the Frankists would declare, since we cannot all be saints, let us all be sinners. Well, this is basically, in a nutshell, what Frankist, the Sabbatean doctrine is. It's the more evil you can do to bring about the Messiah, then do it. It's kind of like what the Chabad Lubavitcher Rebbe said to Netanyahu when he asked him the question, what are you doing to bring about the Messiah? And he said, we're doing all that we can. He says, well, you're not doing enough. Do more. And this is why we have seen through, in America, the moral decay through Hollywood and many other sources that have come upon this nation, that have totally destroyed this nation morally within, is part of the Sabbatean Frankist doctrine. Now, as I said, Jesus, what did Jesus say when he talks about this? You know, and he literally is speaking of their oral law when he says that goes into a man, such as eating with unwashed hands, contrary to the Talmudic law, is not what defiles the man, whether or not he ate with dirty hands or not, but it's what comes out of the man's mouth. And that was the oral law that he's speaking about. So he goes on to say, for out of the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. Jesus knew that the Pharisees would promote in the latter days, especially this doctrine, and that they would actually promote murders, adulteries, fornications, all these things as part of the initiative to bring forth the Mashiach or the Messiah. Well, the Messiah came 2,000 years ago, so no need for him to come again. No more news, birth pains of the Jewish Messiah. This is on Info Hub Blogger. Now, I'll just read a few things in here that I thought were very interesting. But speaks about, in previous posts on this site, I've covered the idea of a powerful Jewish Messianic Kabbalistic force known as the Sabbatean Frankist. Operating in a league with high level of Freemasonry, is largely behind a world events that Zionism and the globalist New World Order project are creations of this cabal, of their messianic plan, which is intended to bring about Jewish world rule from Jerusalem. In 1962, the Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, stated his belief that Israel would one day be the seat of world power. In line with the prophecies of Isaiah, he said that in the future, there would be a world alliance at whose disposal will be the international police force. He went on to say that all armies will be abolished and there will be no more wars. He also said that Jerusalem would become the seat of the Supreme Court of mankind, and pointed out that this was all prophesied by Isaiah. All right. As we move a little further down in the article here, it goes on to say, so the Isaiah prophecy, as referred to by Ben-Gurion, is that world will submit to the Jews and Israel, or else. This is the end goal of Zionism, which portrays itself as a political project, but is in reality a supremacist and messianic one. Should the agenda of Jewish world rule from Jerusalem come to pass, all non-Jews will likely have to adopt the Noahide religion, which is currently under development by Messianic Zionists, cult like Chabad Lubavitch, who have been using various poor and rural communities in places such as the Philippines as lab rats. A Piece in the Heart describes this as a form of Zionist mission which seeks to create a world religion whose believers adore the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Chabad Lubavitch states that their expected Mashiach Messiah, will insistently campaign for Torah observant among Jews and observance of 7 universal Noahide laws by non-Jews. So this is the direction that it's going in, right? But let's continue on right here. It should be pointed out that while the Noahide laws promoted by the likes of Chabad Lubavitch are somewhat conservative, the Sabbatean Frankist clique subscribe, according to the standard narrative, at least to a redemption through sin doctrine. They believe they can serve their God through doing good or evil, and that they can speed up the coming of their Messiah by making the world sinful. Therefore, the Messianic Frankist forces promotes extreme liberalism to turn traditional values on their head. The imposition of the Noahide laws can come later once their Mashiach has arrived and the world rule from Jerusalem achieved. So it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea just how twisted this is, bringing about all this evil in order to bring about a Messiah. And then you cannot help but realize that what Jesus was saying was very prophetic. Even in the Hebrew language, you look at what is said right here, and that which enters through the mouth does not soil the man, but that which goes out of the mouth soils the man. Then his disciples came to him and said to him, know that the Pharisees were perplexed by this word, actually offended. Jesus answered and said, every plant which my Father who is in heaven did not plant will be destroyed. Leave them alone, because the blind are leading the blind, and if a blind man leads another who is blind, both will fall into a pit. Peter answered him, Lord, explain to us this riddle. Jesus answered them, are you still without knowledge? Do you not understand that everything that enters through the mouth goes into the belly, and all goes into the natural place? But that which goes out through the mouth is moved by the heart. This is what soils the man. It's what defiles him, in other words, okay? After Jesus said this, then he goes on to say, because the defiled heart brings forth deceitfulness, murder, adulteries, robberies, the witness of liars, and curses. All these things are what soil the man. Indeed, eating without washing the hands does not soil the man. He's prophesying of what the Pharisees then would do in a future movement. Because of their oral laws, because of their Talmudic, Kabbalistic, because of the Zoharic laws. That's what would defile them. He shows you that through these laws, they would do murders. They would do adulteries. They would promote murder, adultery, deceitfulness, robbery, witness of liars, and curses. And this is why I point this out to you. Look at these articles. Look at Henry Malkov. Look at No More News. Look at the article here on winterwatch.net, all speaking about the Frankist doctrines. Henry Macau, what does he say here? Hence the Illuminati motto, order out of chaos. Hence the Communist Manifesto advocates the destruction of nation, religion, and family, and transfer all private wealth and Illuminati bankers in the guise of the state. The doctrine created destructive explains why war, revolution have been characterized by gratuitous genocide, terror, and destruction. Now he's talking about Kabbalist Frankist doctrines. It explained in the banishment of God from public discourse and the widespread acceptance of obscenity, pornography, occult. It explains the attack on gender, the promotion of homosexuality, the heterosexual. It explains the state of false flag terror and that the hallmark of modern life. Right? Kabbalists, this is what he's talking about up here at the top. Kabbalists believe the old Christian order must ruthlessly destroyed before the new satanic world order based on Kabbalah can be built. All right. And down here, look at here. Kabbalists believe the old Christian order must be ruthlessly destroyed before the new satanic world order based on the Kabbalah can be built. Hence the Illuminati motto, order out of chaos. Hence the Communist Manifesto advocates the destruction of nation, religion, family, and the transfer of all private wealth to the Illuminati bankers, the guise of the state. The doctrine of creative destructive explains why war, revolution have been characterized by gratuitous genocide, terror, and destruction. It explains the banishment of God from public discourse and widespread acceptance of obscenity, pornography, all these things we just read, right? The present-day Illuminati grew out of the satanic, Sabbatean, Frankist, Jewish heresy in the 17th and 18th centuries. The bankers and half the Jews of Europe adopted this pestilence and spread it to the Gentile elite through Freemasonry. Not just through Freemasonry, but through the Chabad group as well. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're listening to Israeli News Live. I trust this has been a blessing to you. And God bless you. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, israelinewslive.org. And if you feel led to help support this ministry, you can do so. Our mailing address right here on the right-hand side of your screen. Dunan Institute, P.O. Box 156, Sunbright, Tennessee 37872. Or you can just click the donate online and help contribute in that regards as well. God bless you and thank you for listening. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live.